Welcome, everyone. My name is Will Conant. I'm the head of operations at Hops Connect Canada. Again, I want to thank Ken and the whole guild. Lisa responded to one of my emails at 4:30 a.m. last night, so she was up early, so appreciate all the work. We have a great session here today. We're going to hear from quite a few people. First off, this panel is coming up a bit later, but first off, we're going to hear from Florian Perschel, who's from Barth Haas in Germany. Barth Haas is our grower partner in Germany and grows over 25 European varieties for Hops Connect Canada. Florian's going to be covering topics regarding the tricky 2022 crop, the harvest, as well as growing trends and global brewing trends that he sees around the world. Florian works with companies all across the world in hops. He has a great context when it comes to that. After that, we're going to have a quick Q&A. Florian's actually on vacation right now with his family and his young son in Austria, so it's about 8 p.m. there. So we're going to do a quick Q&A after that and then let Florian get on his way. And then Stefan Lillos here will be hosting a panel with Aslan Graves, the head brewer from Main Street, and Julia Hanlon, the head brewer from Steamworks, on some advanced products. There'll be opportunity for lively discussion here. And then last but not least, Stefan's going to walk us through a tasting for some beers that were specifically brewed for this hour session right now. There's a beer from Aslan and a beer from Whistleboy on the island. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Florian, all the way from Germany, but again, he's on vacation in Austria, so big round of applause. And Florian, welcome to the BC Craft Brewers Conference.
Thank you, Will. Hello and good morning, everyone. It's great to be with you virtually, and thank you, Will and Hops Connect Canada, for making it possible for the opportunity that I'm able to speak to you today on behalf of Barth Haas and the Barth Haas Group. And I'm glad that it didn't say good morning from Germany, because as Will said, I'm in Austria at the moment. But now I'm with you, and hope you had a great trade show so far. And I would like to start and briefly introduce myself. As I said, my name is Florian Perschel, and so I was born in Munich, which is in South Germany. Some of you might know the city because they heard of the Oktoberfest or have actually been there. Yeah, it's based in the state of Bavaria, and I'm still living there. When it comes to my education, I've studied brewing and beverage technology at the Technical University in Munich, and at the campus in Weinstefan, where also the brewery Weinstefan is. And I'm with Barth Haas since 2014, and started as sales manager for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And since August 1st, I'm heading our team, Western Europe, Africa, and the Americas. So yes, and this is a picture of me and my friends, Dawn and Will Konards at DrinkTech this year in Munich. And yeah, I'm really happy that I have the chance to speak to you today here. And I would like to start right away with some key takeaways for you. So we have 4 takeaways. First is the strong and long-term partnership between Hops Connect Canada and Barth Haas. Second, the below-average harvest in Europe, but a solid supply chain, especially to Hops Connect Canada. Third, new breeding lines, new hop varieties that deliver a more stable yield in alpha and grow much better than in years that we have seen this year and the growing season with high temperatures and low precipitation. And last but not least, advanced hop product for more efficiency and flavor impact in your beer, in your beverages. And I quickly would like to introduce the Barth Haas Group to you, where it all started. It started with a cool startup entrepreneur in 1794. His name was Johann Barth, and he founded the company when he was 77. He had a textile trade and a small brewery, actually. And he handed over the business to his son, George, when the son was 23. And George started hop trading in 1794 near Nuremberg in Germany. So the company is still privately owned, vertically integrated, and is a multinational company. And we grow and process and trade hops and hop products worldwide. And what does multinational mean? So here you have the map, and I pointed out the three most important companies at the Bad Haas Group, which is John A. Haas in Yakima, in the Yakima Valley on the west coast of the US, then Bad Haas in Germany, in Bavaria and Nuremberg, and HPA, which is Hop Products Australia on Tasmania. And why I'm telling you that, I would like to introduce you to the partnership that we have with Hops Connect Canada and Hops Connect Canada has with the Bad Haas Group. And I would like to start the introduction with a quote, which is from Henry Ford. And he said, if everyone is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself. And I really love the quote when it comes to our partnership, because it points at synergy. So the definition of synergy is the interaction of or cooperation of two or more organizations to produce a combined effect greater than the sum of the separate effects. And this is what we clearly see in our relationship. And now I would like to guide you through the beginnings and why we do it and why we believe in the partnership. And it all started in 2013. And as I'm here today, you can clearly tell that we are looking for long-term relationships. And this is not only with our partners, it's also with our growers, where it all starts when we purchase hops. Then also with our customers, with breweries we deal with, and also with our partners like Hops Connect Canada. And we look for people with passion for beer over the entire supply chain. So it starts also with the grower. For example, if the grower doesn't pick his hops at the right time, maybe too early, maybe too late, it has a flavor impact on the hops. And so at the very end, it will have a flavor impact on your beer, on your product. And so we are looking for people that have passion for beer over the entire supply chain. And when I said growers, this means we purchase. So we also grow our own hops, but the majority of our business is also purchasing. And when it comes to our purchasing philosophy, there's only one way, and it is buying straight from the grower, straight from the source, like Hops Connect Canada does. And why is that so important? It is important because it's a guarantee for security and also for constant quality, which is what we want, which is what the brewer wants. And we would purchase in nearly every hop growing regions in the world, which means a huge hop diversity. And with you and your relationship with Hops Connect Canada, you have access to that huge hop diversity. And last but not least, oops, wrong way. We have a focus, and our focus is clearly the quality and the flavor impact in beer, which drives us. All right, so far so good about some history, some focus. Now I would like to start with the current market situation and some outlooks. And I would like to start with a chart. Germany, acreage and yield. So the purple line that you see At the bottom, let me get the laser pointer. So this is basically the acreage, the hop acreage in Germany. Please forgive me that I didn't convert all the numbers into acres, but I think 1 hectare is 2.5 acres roughly. That gives you an indication about the size of the acreage. And the green line over there is the yield of every crop year, measured in tons of raw hops. And what is really interesting here is that from last year to this year, the hop acreage didn't change a lot, right? Only a reduction of 14 hectares. But what stands out here is the reduced yield compared to last year. And how much is that in numbers? I try to get my, wait a second. Yeah. So this is actually the crop volume, the result that we were getting this year. It's compared to an average crop, it's a deviation of minus 26%, which is quite a lot. And in an ideal world, the green line would be somewhat parallel to the purple line, but it is not the real world. So, or let's say in the real world, you would see the dents. And those dents in the yield line is an indicator for a bad crop year, or not an ideal crop year. All right, let's have a look at the alpha levels, the alpha acid contents of crop 2022 in Germany and also in the Czech Republic. And in the first column, you would see a 10-year average. And I picked some hop varieties that are familiar to you, I hope. And there's a comparison. So second column is crop 22. Here's crop 21. And the column here and column here shows the deviation, in this case, to the 10-year average. And here, the deviation, crop 22 compared to last year's crop. And as you can see already, I marked the higher deviations in red. You can already see that the deviation to the average is really high with Hallertau Mittelfrüh, with Perle, with Tettnanger, with Sarza. It's close to minus 10%. This might look minor at first, but if we then look at the deviation that compares the alpha acid content from crop 2022 to 21, the numbers get much bigger. And I gotta say that crop 21 was a really bumper crop that we haven't had in the years before. Okay. So let's also have a look at the acreage in the US. Doesn't look that bad there. You can see that there's a decline in the acreage here from crop 21 to crop 22, but also that declining yield that we have seen in Europe. But it's not that big as in Europe or in Germany, so it's a little less. It's a minus 10% deviation compared to an average crop. And I should add, some of you might have questions already, and I'm sure we have some minutes to answer those questions at the end of my presentation. So this was the US. And here's the global view. So globally, we harvested around 105,000 tons of raw hops this year on an acreage of 62,500 hectares. And as you can see, the world acreage fell until 2013. And since 2013, the hop area, the hop acreage was increasing again. And then since last year, we have this little decline, which can have several reasons. Sometimes it's that US hop growers took out some of the high alpha hops out of the ground, and then they replaced it or didn't. This is some of the reasons. So it should be a different slide now. No, okay. So on a global view, with regards to the hop volume, there's a deviation of minus 18% compared to an average crop. And let's talk about some challenges of hop production. As I've mentioned already, we had temperatures, especially in Germany and in Europe, we had temperatures above average during the growing season, and precipitation was below average, which results in a minor or below average crop. This is a big challenge for hop growers, for hop merchants, and could be a challenge at the very end for breweries too. But there are also some other challenges that we are facing. For example, the war in Russia, which led to supply shortages in energy, in other raw materials and fertilizers, and many other things. Hop production highly depends on energy, and we saw a massive increase of variable production costs in the last 2 years. And as you can see on the slide, in sum, it was approximately an increase of 30%. And here you will see the different costs that increased, and nearly all costs increased. Some more than others, especially the variable machine costs, energy, electricity, oil, diesel increased a lot, but also costs for pesticides, also for wires, and plant nutrition. So those are big challenges for the growers, but also for the merchants at the moment. What is another challenge? So another challenge would be the impact of climate change, which results in what we've seen this year, longer heat and drought periods, which sometimes affects the security of supply. So what will be a solution? So the solution will be looking at varieties, breeding varieties that deliver a more stable yield in alpha, and also grow better during those longer heat and drought periods. But growing a hop variety isn't the only solution. So we can do that on the breeding side, but then on the other side, the other question is if brewers want those hop varieties and use it in their recipes. And so it's really important when you think about how could hop merchants or breweries help the grower, then it would be like looking at those varieties, those new varieties, and to see what they can do to your beer, and if this would be a future replacement, for example, for an older variety that doesn't grow very well when there is heat and drought periods during the growing period. All right. Let's move on to advanced hop products. This is what I would like to show you today. So this is a very rough drawing of the brewing process. So the product I have for you today is Flex. which is used in the kettle, Incognito, which is used in the whirlpool, Spectrum and Hop 8, which is used on the cold side in the cellar, and Hop Haze, which is used usually during post-filtration. And I would like to start with Flex, better bittering for all, and it's actually a really neat product. As you can see, it's a flowable extract, flowable at room temperature, and has a very high bitterness utilization. So compared to Time 90, it's a plus of 10 to 20%. And it really delivers clean and bright bitterness to your beer. As I said, extremely flowable at room temperature. And as you can see, there is no sophisticated dosing equipment needed. You just take the jug out of the fridge, open it, dose it, close it again, and job done. And a sealed container can be stored for about 2 years, which is great if you want to store more, or just if there is a shift in production, and it's really storable, as I said. It also another benefit would be shipping and storage weight, which is remarkably reduced, and also the volume. The high alpha acid concentration would be around 65% in a very tight, let's say, frame. So it's always around 65%. So next is Spectrum and Incognito. So we call it the liquid hop flavor revolution. Why do we say that? Well, Incognito and Spectrum are both fairly innovative products. Product like Spectrum hasn't been around before, a liquid solution for dry hopping. But let's start with Incognito first. As you've seen in the graph before, Incognito is designed for adding it to the whirlpool. It's 100% hops. It's a zero vegetative material. It's variety specific and true to type. So that means the flavor it delivers is similar to what you get if you would use Type 90 pellet. It also plays very well with pellets and whole hops, and it's also flowable at ambient temperatures. We have reduced shipping and storage costs again, and the product is available with the variety Centennial, Chinook, Citra, Eldorado, Equinox, Mosaic, and Sabro. So, and as I said already, Spectrum, the world's first liquid dry hopping product. You would get no beer losses or hop creep by using it. Spectrum, English word is probably dissolves if you add it on the cold side. So I remember talking to craft brewers in Germany when they used it. They were really happy because they were facing losses during the dry hopping process for about 20 up to 30%, which they got rid of by using Spectrum. It's also variety specific, true to type, 100% hop derived. And as I said already, fully dispersible in cold beer. And on the little picture you see, also, you don't need any fancy dry hopping equipment to dose it. And the Spectrum is available in Citra, Mosaic, Galaxy, and Eclipse. Eclipse is our latest addition to the Spectrum family, and we definitely will come up with more varieties next year. So this is Hop Haze. Hop Haze, it's the first 100% hop-derived clouding agent. Hop Haze is yeah, a 100% hop-derived product, and it adds a really stable haze to filtered beers, but also stabilizes haze in unfiltered beers. The recommended dose rates are about 100 to 500 ppm, and it has clear labeling as a hop extract, so no concerns here. And as an example, I would like to show you this slide here, some visuals, how hop haze acts in a beer and how it really donates haze to a beer with regards to the different dosing levels. Again, unfortunately, not in barrels or pounds again. I'm very sorry. But I think it gives you a good impression about what hop haze can do to a filtered beer, to the filtered light lager, for example, down there. Can make it really hazy. And last but not least, we have Hop-Aid Antifoam. So it's also hop-based, natural anti-foam agent, reduces foam down to approximately 10%, and also prevents excessive overfoaming. So you would be able to increase your tank capacities, and for expanding brewing sites, you would reduce your capex, and for declining brewing sites, for example, you could reduce your operational expenses, which is neat. And last but not least, it has no impact on beer quality parameters. And down here, you see a little example. So this is a fermentation trial. And on the right fermentation trial has been dosed with Hop-Aid Antifoam and results in a greatly reduced fermenter foam. And that's the additional capacity we are looking for when using Hop-Aid Antifoam. All right. That was it so far. Thank you very much for your attention. And if there are any questions, please shout.
Thank you, Florian. So Florian, it's 8:30 p.m. in Austria where he is. So we're gonna do a quick Q&A for Florian here, like 2 to 3 minutes, and then the panel is gonna start here. So I can walk around. Just raise your hand if you have questions. Questions, anyone?
Hi there, Florian. Thank you very much for that presentation. That was wonderful. Food security and energy security, of course, are inextricably linked globally, and that's something you spoke to. What are the kind of predictions for that kind of energy security moving forward? Because obviously these other hop products are very high energy intensive. What does the future of that look like?
Very good question. Very good question. At the moment, there's a lot of uncertainty. So because it's not really clear if costs will increase. And so we usually would make forward contracts for the next 10 years, right? But we as the Bauhaus Group at the moment, we try to pause that because we have no idea where energy costs will be in the next 4 or 5 years. There are some indications on the horizon that it will stop finally, but how that affects the production of advanced products with higher increasing energy costs, we will see. It's really hard to decide at the moment because the situation is really uncertain and unclear at the moment.
Okay, we probably have time for one more question as we're running a bit behind. Any questions? Okay, if you have some, you can come by our booth later. So we'll jump into the panel. Stefan Lillos from Hops Connect, Western Canada sales partner, Aslan Graves, head brewer from Main Street, and Julia Hanlon, head brewer from Steamworks.
Thanks, Will. Oh, that was really loud. And Florian, thank you so much. We're gonna be chatting a bit about some of these advanced products in beer. I know you've probably been hearing beers being cracked over there, so hold your horses. We'll be drinking those soon. But yeah, we'll just get into it. So Julia, Aslan, thank you so much for both being here and taking part in this. Really appreciate it. Yeah, and like, what got you guys into craft beer? I guess, Julia.
I guess going back to the original time where I got into craft beer was probably I was in university. It was sometime in the early 2000s, and I went to my first beer festival at the old Plaza of Nations site. And I had, I guess, some life transformational beers, and they were Phillips Chocolate Porter,
Sweet.
Steamworks Pumpkin Ale, which must have been made by Conrad at the time. And I remember, I'll never forget this beer. It was Storm Basil beer. I don't know if I saw James up there.
I saw James in here. Yeah.
And I never really imagined I would be doing this as a job, but yeah, here I am.
Beauty. For yourself.
Yeah, for myself, my dad was an avid homebrewer, loyal patron of Dan's homebrewing in the day, and as a result, grew up with exposure to Storm's Black Plague Stout and Nelson Faceplant. I think.
Yeah, beauty. Oh, so good. And like, what are your favorite beers to kind of brew now? Yeah.
I think for myself, it's like regional lagers, but I mean hoppy beers too. Tons of variation. Yeah.
Beauty.
That's funny you should say that. I was just going to say beers that I like to drink, and I don't like to drink Steamworks Pumpkin Ale that much anymore, and I don't like to brew it either. I was going to say lagers as well, but I think any kind of beer that is teaching us something as brewers, and we've been, for example, we've did a low ABV IPA this year, and we've been learning a lot from that. So
had that yesterday with you. It was very good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we have 5 advanced products that we really believe in. We just kind of went over them: Flex, Incognito, Spectrum, Hop-Aid, most recently Hop Haze. What are your experience with them? I guess, Aslan, have you kind of been able to use them over the past years? And
like with any new product, I typically like to work it into a seasonal to see how it's going to perform, trial it out, and then consistently have been using Incognito now for 2 years, and it's been awesome for giving us that like repeatability and brand consistency, and then Hop-Aid Anti-Foam as well to really help max out our tank space. We ferment under pressure with some of our products, and having a little bit of Hop-Aid Anti-Foam in there just means those spunding valves don't get gross.
Yeah, fair. And Julia, you were mentioning, like we were chatting earlier about kind of using some of the extracts, CO2 extracts in conjunction.
Yeah, so we've been trialing or using them in a few different spots. So we've been using extract for bittering in a few of our bigger beers where we're just trying to get every drop of the beer in the can. Yeah. So that's been kind of like a straight across swap with bittering pellet. We've also, to I guess like a lesser extent, but we've been working a little bit more with Spectrum. Yeah. So we have that we did that in our Empress Double IPA again, essentially to help with yield. Yeah. And again, that was we brewed that beer just once last year. So not really comparing it necessarily to anything, but it was a great beer and we're really happy with it and we got the most out of it. And then the other thing that we've been using advanced kind of cold side extracts for is to deal with hop creep. Yeah. So the idea being that if we can take out some of that plant material that we have less hop creep. So that's kind of something we've really been struggling with to varying degrees with our low ABV IPA. Yeah. We're trying to make a beer that has a lot of body, but that combination with the hops we're using, we're getting sometimes a little bit of hop creep, sometimes a lot of hop creep, so really difficult to make a consistent beer and also keep the ABV actually low. Yeah, absolutely. So that's been working out pretty well. And then Hop Haze, we've tried different products like that, but none of them are 100% hop derived. and a lot of them seem to have flavor impacts from what we could tell. And so hop haze is one that we haven't used it yet, but it seems to have the most success, like in the lab at the bench level, both in creating the haze that we want and also not impacting flavor. Our plan with that is not necessarily to use it in the beer all the time, but we do occasionally have a batch of hazy beer that comes through clearer than we expect, so we kind of want to be able to correct that.
It's easy to have like a kilogram on hand or whatever, or a couple kg on hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just correct things. And I guess with like to you, Aslan, was there any hesitance, like kind of diving into the world of advanced products on your scale?
Yeah, I feel like for a while it was kind of like a dirty word, I guess, to use hop oils in like craft beer, and so like from that aspect, it seemed like was a little hesitant for sure. Once again, like trialing it with a seasonal and getting a feel for it was a great way to start. And then from there, when we moved it into our core product beer, for example, we started with a smaller amount, substituting only 2.5 kilograms, and then working our way up as we found that it was still staying like true to brand and sticking with that taste profile.
Yeah, and I guess that was like the main kind of reason for the switch was the beer losses and
So we've gone from having roughly like what is it here, 11 kilograms of hot side Whirlpool edition. Now we're down to 2.5 kilograms, and at that point we've added a secondary kettle out on our boil kettle that was installed last year, and we're recovering 75 liters plus per batch, which is big on our size.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love it. Yeah, and I guess jumping into, I know you guys both take part in our Mylar recycling program. There's a chat yesterday about it, which was awesome, with a couple questions about kind of what to do with those. In the whole Vancouver Lower Mainland area, we come by, pick them up, and we've set ourselves up as a recycling depot for them. And we've also just launched this now in the GTA, and we plan to expand this further in Canada. So collect those foils because we'll come grab them. So it's safe to assume though that you're reducing your carbon footprint is a pretty big thing. Minimizing the waste. Like how do you feel about these products kind of helping you in down that line?
Yeah, it feels like they're almost necessary at this point. Like just listening to what Florian said about the German hop crop this year, and I think Alexis did an amazing presentation today that I think got a lot of people yesterday gears turning. So just anything that can make the way we brew beer more sustainable, use less water. I mean, every drop, if we put in a drop of water, we want that to turn into beer and get into a can versus going down the, into landfill with entrained with hops or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it just changes the way we're doing things. And I think to Aslan's point about extracts maybe being a bad word, I feel like I definitely had that hesitancy for a really long time, but I think these things are sort of forcing us to pivot, and they're not really bad words at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They make great beers. So
it was like, I remember like when I kind of first started Hops Connect, I swear like half of our orders were whole leaf, and like switching over to T9.
Probably from Steamworks.
From Steamworks, and it was like a I don't know, it was kind of almost like, oh, you're using pellets, like how crazy is that? But it's just kind of kept kind of evolving. So I'm really excited to be able to bring out these types of products and see what you guys can do with them. It's been awesome. And in a couple weeks, we are going to be launching our new website. So we're going to have brewing calculators on there to be able to adjust, from T90s, T45s, to be able to actually like set up, see how they would work in your beer, with efficiencies and stuff. But I also do have like an Excel sheet, a pretty crazy Excel sheet. If anybody wants that, let me know. yeah, and then I guess we should probably jump in and try some of these products and try some beers that we've brewed. One of them with Main Street, one with Whistleboy. So maybe are you guys gonna? Yeah, nice. Okay, sweet. This is great. Awesome. Yeah, so the first one we're going to be trying is the Hop Haze Pale Ale that we brewed with Whistleboy. So this has Pilsner and Maris Otter, so it should be like a clear beer, but we've added hop haze to it. So that's all the haze in there is from the hop haze. In the Whirlpool, we have the Citra T90 and Citra Incognito. So we're getting big like grapefruit kind of tropical notes from that, some zest, some lime, and then the Mosaic T90 and Incognito. So some tangerine and peach notes. And then in the dry hop, it's again Citra T90, Mosaic T90, and then Spectrum. So 50-50 split. And then for the hop haze, it's 450 grams at 500 milligrams a liter. So for these, like for a kilogram of hop haze, you kind of use about 1 kilogram for 20 hectoliters ish is kind of like the ballpark. So it's pretty awesome. Yeah. It's tasty.
Beers are coming up
It's
the
good.
aisles. If you
It
don't
is
have a
really
beer in the next minute, just raise your hand. We'll bring you one. Or if you want another one. There is a second beer coming, though. Don't worry.
Yes. And we have plenty more at our booth. Ken said we could pour full glasses, I think, if he's in here. Did you say that? After this?
Yes.
Yeah? Yes. Okay, perfect. Okay, good. Nice. Sweet. Yeah. Tasty. Yeah, and then the second one coming up, I'll let Aslan speak to it because, I mean, he brewed the beer. Oh, and also shout out to Greg and Matt for putting this beer together. Greg is pouring beers like crazy over here, but he helped develop this beer, so super cool. Thank you, Greg. Yeah. Yep. Oh, they haven't? Okay. Okay, sweet. Okay, never mind. Nice. I guess, yeah, we'll chat about... Yeah, you guys want to... So, what's been bothering you? How are you doing? Sweet. Fill some air. Okay.
Maybe one thing I wanted to mention
Yeah.
with Incognito specifically, we had some pretty big growth within one of our core brands,
Yeah.
and partway through had to get more. The crop year we are currently using was not available, and we switched to 2019 crop year, and it was absolutely interchangeable, like across the board, which was great for us knowing that like year to year with those refined products that we are getting that same thing.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's like a massive part of these products is the absolute consistency. So they're able to tweak, you know, the Incognito and Spectrum to try and make it more or less the same year over year, so that it's like an exact same product. Also, like the shelf life is fantastic on these things, like you were mentioning. Storageability is super easy. You can just go in a fridge. Shipping is super cheap. So if you're up in, you know, absolute northern BC, it's you can probably throw a kilogram in an express envelope, get it to you the next day for pretty damn cheap, which is awesome. Yeah. Wicked. Yeah. I guess, did everybody get the first beer? Almost?
Okay. The second beer is on its way out. It's just being poured right now.
Yes.
So Aslan, if you haven't already, you can introduce your beer.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess part of that like regional beers thing, I was pretty excited to do a Pacific Ale, essentially kind of like a predecessor to Hazy Pale or something, Aussie inspired, using Pacific hops with Eclipse, Spectrum, and Galaxy. Yeah, it's majority, like there's 3 kilograms of hops in the Whirlpool, and then the dry hop is 100% Spectrum. From a dosage point of view and ease of work, put it into a corny keg, purged, diluted with beer and pumped it right in, which is awesome for anybody who's working at a small brewery and trying to accomplish mid-fermentation dry hops. That can be a sketchy experience at times. So yeah, that was a big selling feature on that aspect. So a couple of the other products added in line to Bright, the hop haze, and anti-foam. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's it? It's the Eclipse and Galaxy. So, yeah, with the Galaxy, passion fruit is kind of like one of the main descriptors for it. Citrus fruit. It's really hard to really pinpoint a lot of these descriptors that you see, but with these big Australian ones, we see a lot of like big fruit flavors. That's kind of what all of that stuff's about. I know Julie, you use quite a bit of Galaxy, and have for some time now. I mean, you guys were one of the first really to use it on a larger commercial scale in the BC, at least for sure.
Yes. So yeah, we've been using quite a lot of Galaxy, and it's in flagship IPA. So definitely, I'm curious going forward, like if we were to like transition into using some kind of Spectrum products, what would that look like? You know, maybe some other people have this question too about, you know, maybe they have existing contracts on hops, and if they want to switch some of that into Spectrum or, you know, Incognito, like what does that look like?
Yeah, so we can definitely do, I mean, into future crops. Stuff that's already here is kind of like that's what you have, unless we can maybe move it elsewhere. But for future stuff, we can definitely, you know, convert into these Spectrum product lines. Yeah, it's actually kind of cool. The for mainly like the Australian hops, you'll see a lot of European and American hops being converted into kind of like the advanced pellets, the T45 or Lupomax style. But for the Australian hops, they're all like super high oil and super high acid. So you actually can't really strip out like half of the coarse leaf and stem material, because you can't really pelletize it. It would just like gum it up, get too hot. They almost act as if they are a like advanced pellet with how high the brewing values are. So for us, it's really cool to see, you know, these products being put into the like extract lines, so you can, you know, completely get away from that loss.
I have another question actually about that.
Yeah.
So obviously bringing in hops from about as far around the world as we possibly can is not a great carbon footprint. Is there does HPA or Haas have any data on carbon footprint of Galaxy T90 coming to shipping versus Galaxy Spectrum or Incognito?
Yeah, so Will, maybe you can speak to that a bit, because I know HPA has like an extremely like very detailed you know, plan on that.
If anyone was in Alexis's chat from yesterday about sustainability and everything, the report she was talking about was from HPA, just because it's about an 80-page report, and they've joined all these really high-level global packs around sustainability and everything. They're really into GPS farming, so all of their hop poles are planted with GPS mapping, so that and all the sprayers are now becoming automated. So instead of a person driving them and messing up and having to go back and fill up with spray and everything, it's done automatically, so it's super efficient. So if anyone wants to read that 80-page report that Alexis was talking about, it's from HPA, which is kind of cool, because as Julia said, it is very far away and takes a long time to get here on a boat. So yeah, if anyone, we have I think one more round of beers coming up. Did anyone get missed on the second beer? Put up your hand. Oh God. Okay.
On this side on the top. Okay. Perfect.
I can feel Ken giving me the stink eye. We have these beers at our booth. So if you missed the beer, just come by our booth. Here's one more round.
Thank you so much.
Sorry,
for
Ken.
doing this.
We also have on the exit, since we're a bit over time here, all of the hops that you tried in the beers are in leaf format from this crop at the table here, so you can rub them, try another beer if you want, and see kind of how that translates. We have aroma kits, which are kind of sensory kits that kind of balance your nose essentially in terms of what actually is citrus or floral or menthol or whatever you can get from the hops. So when you're smelling hops or tasting beer, these aroma kits are super useful for your tasting room staff, even for tasting notes. There's product books that you can take. So kind of go at it on your way out.